Have you ever tried to plug a really powerful Azure service, something like a SQL-managed instance, into your virtual network and just felt that little bit of panic, like you're about to hand over the keys to your entire kingdom? It's a totally common feeling. But guess what? There's a specific Azure feature designed for exactly this. Today, we're going to master Azure Subnet Delegation.
So this is the big question, isn't it? You absolutely want to use these incredible platform services. We're talking Azure SQL Managed Instance, Azure Databricks, stuff that needs to live inside your VNet for top-notch security and performance. But how do you give them the network access they need without just, blowing up all the security policies you've so carefully put in place?
And that right there brings us to the core challenge. It's a real balancing act. On one side, you've got these advanced services with very specific requirements. They might need certain ports open or specific routes to work correctly. And on the other side, there's you, the network owner, with your own security policies and traffic flows that are absolutely non-negotiable.
It's a classic tug-of-war, right? If you just drop a service into a standard subnet, you're pretty much asking for a collision. The service might try to slop on a rule that clashes with your network security group, or maybe create a route that accidentally hijacks traffic it shouldn't. It's this constant tension between what the service needs and what your network's integrity demands.
So what's Azure's answer to this puzzle? Well, it's an incredibly elegant feature called Subnet Delegation. And I want to be clear, this isn't some clever workaround. This is the purpose-built, official, straight-from-the-source solution for integrating these services into your VNet safely and securely.
So what in the world does it mean to delegate? Well, in simple terms, you're basically pointing to a specific chunk of your network and telling Azure, hey, see this subnet right here? It's now reserved exclusively for this service. You're giving that service explicit permission to set up its own little corner of your network, making sure it gets exactly what it needs to run flawlessly.
And honestly, this is the best way to think about it. I love this analogy. You own the whole building. That's your virtual network. When you delegate a subnet, you aren't selling off a room, you're just leasing it out. The tenant, which is the Azure service, gets to decorate and arrange that room however they need to. But, and this is key, they can't start messing with the plumbing or the electrical for the entire building. You're still the one in charge.
You see, this isn't about making a compromise. It's a genuine win-win. So let's break down exactly how this is great for both you, the landlord, and the service, your new tenant. So first, let's talk about your powers as the landlord. Even with that tenant moved in, you still control the building's main infrastructure, right? You're still applying the master network security groups to filter traffic. You're still using user-defined routes to direct the flow. You still manage the overall integration. You keep that high-level, big-picture control over everything.
So what about the tenant, the Azure service? What's in it for them? 2 words: stability and reliability. It gets to establish what Azure calls network intent policies. Just think of these as its own internal set of house rules for that room you leased it. These policies can actually prevent a network change even one you make by accident that would break the service. It's a built-in safety net to keep it running smoothly for your apps.
Of course, every good lease agreement has some terms and conditions, the fine print. When you delegate a subnet, you're agreeing to a specific set of rules that govern how that little piece of your network can be used. So let's take a look at what those are.
First off, the service gets to lay down some ground rules for its new space. It can say, hey, this subnet has to be dedicated just to me, no sharing with other VMs or services. It will also call out the minimum number of IP addresses it needs to work and make sure they come from a private address space. For some services, it might even need some specific DNS settings to be in place.
Okay, this table shows some really important differences. Notice how for NSGs and route tables, the support becomes service dependent. This means some services might let you attach your own, while others won't. But look at that last one, it's a biggie. You cannot use private endpoints in a delegated subnet. Why? Because that subnet is now fully reserved for that one injected service.
And it doesn't just stop at the initial setup. The service can also deploy its own security rules and routes inside its delegated subnet. This is all about self-preservation, really, making sure it has what it needs to be stable and performant. And the upside for you? You don't have to manually figure out and configure every single one of those complex details just to get the thing running.
All right, I know what you might be thinking at this point. This sounds like I'm giving up a whole lot of control, but this is where Azure provides a super critical safety net. So let's be absolutely crystal clear about the authority that you, the network owner, will always have.
Okay, this is the most important takeaway of the day.
That service is completely sandboxed inside its delegated subnet. It cannot touch, see, or affect any of your other workloads in other subnets, period. And most importantly, while the service can set its own policies and routes for its own stability, you always have the final say. Your rules can override theirs. You are the ultimate authority over your VNet. You're still the landlord.
And hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. Let's look at the official word from Microsoft's own documentation. It says right there in black and white. The entire point of this feature is to give you, the customer, full control. It's about enabling control through delegation, not losing control because of it.
So, when you use Subnet Delegation, you really do get the best of both worlds. You get the raw power of Azure's most advanced services running securely right inside your network, but you never have to sacrifice your control. It takes what used to be a really complex, kind of scary integration problem and turns it into a simple, manageable process. You're not just a network admin anymore. You're a landlord, confidently leasing out space for innovation. So the only question left is, what are you going to build next?